Well, it's a great pleasure to welcome to What's Next Jorge Mendes, who's the Chief Executive Officer at Cell C. And Jorge is no stranger to this business. He's had this role, by the way, since July 2023. And previous to that, he was the Chief Officer of Consumer Business at Vodacom South Africa. He was responsible for driving sustainable growth across the businesses. And, you know, Jorge has been around for a long, long time. You know, he's been the CC executive for more than 30 years, if I'm standing to be corrected, Jorge. And you've had lots of experience in the telecommunications industry, implementing consumer-centric strategies. You've really had incredible leadership skills, which you've displayed, and really growth of high-performing teams within various organizations. But Jorge, has it been more than 30 years, right, that you've been in this business?
Yeah, Aki, thanks very much. Thank you for having me. It's been more than 30 years that I've been in the industry, not at C-suite. Otherwise, I'm only 52 now, so I would have had to have started when I was 9, and I think that's not possible. So 30 plus years in the industry. I've been at the C-suite for a long time. I started as a call center agent in 1994 at Teljoy Cellular Service, which was a service provider at that time of Vodacom, a company founded by Morris Rutstein and Theo Rutstein. And they actually brought television to South Africa. So TV rentals and video machines, if you remember those, Betamax and VHS and so on, is effectively where I started in the cellular division. And I started as a call center agent, which, you know, with hindsight has turned out to be a masterstroke, because I guess that you learn pretty much everything about the business from a customer-facing point of view. And I had a deep thirst and desire to understand things and solve stuff and fix stuff. And we sounded quite intellectual as call center agents back in 1994, because everything was like, just switch off your phone, switch it back on. Does it say 65501 on your screen? Then it's working again, you know, and customers were over the moon, and it was a simple reboot. So very exciting times. Listen, and of course, the industry's changed a lot.
No, it has, and you're giving your age away by, you know, talking about video machines and that sort of thing. But, you know, if you go further back, I mean, obviously that was a very important part of your life, because it really stoked the fire and hunger for what you're doing today. But was it like that growing up? When you think back to your childhood, there weren't cell phones, for example. Did you know that you were going to be doing this and be in the ICT sector way back then? What kind of careers were you looking at growing up?
It's a great question, because I think, you know, nowadays people look at you and they look at, let me say in inverted commas, a kind of ready-made product. Clearly, I wasn't born this way, and I've learned a lot and been shaped throughout my life and career. And that's the message I give to younger people, that it's all possible, because I think it is quite inspirational to say, if you start as a call center agent, it's pretty okay. And I think for people not to know exactly what they want to do in their careers at a very early age is pretty okay, because you're not geared for that. You don't have that level of wisdom and depth yet. And to your point, Aki, I wanted to be an architect. I went to John Orr Technical High School. I did technical civil. I started drawing. Those days it was still the drawing boards with set squares and rulers and compasses and so on. And I designed. That's what I wanted to do. We came from a very humble upbringing, which today I think was very good. You know, growing up, again, you don't have the depth and intellect to compare and realize that it's actually okay. We had great food. I'm Portuguese. We've never gone without, but we were brought up in a humble environment. And so as a result, I was working part-time from a very early age. I've always bought my own stuff. So I worked in a liquor store part-time from the age of 12 years old, Friday afternoon and a Saturday. And entrepreneurial skills started developing. I owned some shebeens. I used to deliver to shebeens. I then got involved in liquor stores. And in fact, the reason why I got into the call center agent position, which I didn't even know what it was, I applied in the classifieds, if you remember that, in the back of a newspaper. And I applied for this role because I got held up in a liquor store 3 times, and on the 3rd time, different liquor stores, They killed my partner and I got shot, and I thought I really wanted a very safe office environment. And that's how I applied and became a call center agent. So a complete turn of careers. I had no real plan on becoming something significant in the ICT sector, if I can put it that way. Just architecture, entrepreneurial stuff, liquor stores, and life happened.
What a fascinating story. Now, that's 1994 where this turning point happened, right? You join Telstra as a call center agent, and of course, that was the birth of our democracy. It was our first elections that year, and it was also the year that the two big networks launched their services, Vodacom and MTN. And when you look back, and obviously that shaped a lot of where you are today. And I'm thinking, knowing you and your customer experience passion that you have, that must have also shaped you professionally, understanding what the customer wants and dealing with the customer, because you really are at the coalface of dealing with customer service. What did you learn?
Absolutely. I learned a hell of a lot. I learned that firstly, the call center makes no problems. They just deal with everybody else's problems. So besides answering the phone quickly and resolving the issues first time and quickly, the issues are generated elsewhere. There's a billing issue generated by IT or the billing platform. There's a network issue generated by the network engineering division. There's a phone problem generated by either phone failure or distribution channel that didn't sell something that led up to the expectations or was misled. So the call center is always handling issues created everywhere else. So my natural instinct was to say, well, if these calls are coming in, it's all very well and good that Aki phones in, I resolve his matter, I say, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity. Trust that all is well and solved. Are you happy, fully satisfied? You say yes. If I just leave it there, the next Aki or George will phone in with the same problem. What we started doing is going to the root cause. Why did this happen in the first place? And then go back into those divisions and suggest a fix for things that could be fixed. So you dealt with a wide range of issues. You dealt with customers complaining for good reason, mostly. You do get the odd customer that complains professionally, especially people that have just too much time on their hands. But I'd say 99.9% they are legit. So you land up understanding what's the root cause, how do you fix it, how do you solve it. And even today, all these years later, one of the things in our value system and ethos for Cell C is to be absolutely customer-centric and to be an ally to those customers that we serve. So we are on the same side of the customer, helping them to see how technology can improve their life rather than talking to them, because that's kind of, I've got a product, I'll sell it to you, and that's how it works, rather than on the other side saying, how can we help you with technology? So it's quite a fascinating journey, but if you are genuinely willing and open-minded to learning about all these issues, what is the root cause, how you can fix them, you start developing kind of a fix mentality. And I realized only much later on in life that what I really love to do, and probably one of the reasons why I took on this very role, is I like to fix or build. I don't like maintenance. I don't get satisfaction out of maintenance. If you give me a well-run business and say carry on running it well, I feel like I haven't added any value. And so if you think of architecture, a clean slate, a piece of land, or something that needs to be renovated, but it's kind of starts somewhere, you do a lot of things to it, and then you see the finished product and you step back and say, wow, that's something quite special. And I only realized that later on is that that's actually what keeps me alive and what makes me really excited is that adding value. And it doesn't have to be large quantities at a time. It's a simple thing like if I can plant a seed today, and if tomorrow there's some small green shoot that's already forming, we're on the right track. There's progress. We're building something significant.
What a wonderful story, because from there you moved to Vodacom and you were at Vodacom for a long time. And what you talk about, wiping the slate clean and building something and adding value, that's truly runs deep in your philosophy and an entrepreneurial spirit, because when you look at those leadership roles that you climbed very quickly and impressively at Vodacom, I mean, it was pretty wow to the role you left before you joined Cell C. So would you say, I mean, what would you attribute that quick success to? is it what you've just said now, that you had the platforms to build and add value? That must be one of them, but there are probably a lot more.
Well, the one is you always need someone to believe in you, right? So somebody hired me as a call center agent. They took a chance. It doesn't mean that I was necessarily the only person, etc., that could do the role, but you have to start somewhere. Not every role says you have to have X amount of experience, because how do you get it if no one gives it the chance to get going? So you need people around you that actually believe in you. You need to have a little bit of luck on timing. So if you look at my timing into the industry, as you said early on, right at the beginning. So I learned from the beginning of the industry. I didn't arrive 10 or 20 years later, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I learned right from the beginning. So I've evolved with the industry. I've worked across multiple functions. I've done pretty much every role that there is, from warehouse, logistics, marketing, sales, regional operations, network operations, even finance elements, marketing, all of this kind of stuff, digital channels across markets. I've worked in South Africa, the DRC, Tanzania, Mozambique. In South Africa, I've worked in KZN running the region. I've worked in the Free State and Northern Cape running the region. And it's important, these dynamics. If you look at the cultural differences that we have, different languages, ethnic groups, etc. in South Africa, when you go to the Free State and Northern Cape, you've got to brush up on your Afrikaans, because that's what starts happening. If you're in KZN, you've got a lot of Zulu speaking and very diverse set of individuals and structures, rural, peri-urban, urban, etc. So all these dynamics give you the ability to learn. And a caveat is, if you have an abundance mindset, if you have a mindset that is not of poverty, if you have a mindset that is of thirst and knowledge and innovation and creativity, then you will be like a sponge in these environments and just take it all in, and you're building up a whole database, if you like, of information and tools that you can use at some stage in your life. So I've worked for amazing people. I've worked for some not so amazing people, but you learn something from everyone. In some instances, what to do, and in other instances, what not to do. You get the opportunity to rewrite the book. You've got to use what you've learned along the way, along the journey.
So a new chapter in your career, your decision to become Cell C CEO in 2023. It's a very interesting move. I want to talk to you about it, but tell me what excited you about that opportunity first. 2023, it's announced that Jorge Mendes is the new Cell C CEO. What was it about this opportunity that got you salivating?
Well, simply put, looking into the organization from the outside, I knew that stuff was not right. My initial impressions from an observer and a participant in the marketplace, looking at Cell C, I realized there's a number of challenges inside the organization that would need to be addressed. So our initial views, and I say, hi, I start building a team and so on, but my thinking was, governance is probably weak, stakeholder engagement is probably weak, and that's across the board. So regulatory, etc., etc. The network quality wasn't fantastic, not a clear strategy. So there's a number of things. Look, the financial position, at least in terms of what was public information, didn't look great. So one would argue and say, well, why the hell would you consider such a role if there's all these things going on? I think if you go back to what I said earlier, that I like to fix or build, I saw that as a really, really interesting challenge. I knew that there's something special there that can be done. It's an organization that arrived later than the incumbents, but it's been disruptive. It's been customer-centric. It's led with consumer-facing propositions. It's disrupted the market in a few ways along the way, and has also lost its way along the journey. We are 25 years old today. It's a household name. So I'm arriving with something, or to something, that's got this tremendous amount of potential, but is in a really bad condition. So I found a broken, run-down, dirty, rusty Lamborghini in the middle of the forest, and I thought we could revive this, and we can make this spectacular and put it in the glass showroom that it deserves to be in, and perhaps even on a fancy racetrack, and compete effectively with other shiny cars, if you like, And I think that's what we're trying to do. It was the challenge of being able to bring this back to life in a sustainable way, in a customer-centric way, where people actually matter. Strangely enough, today, it is impossible to get meetings with senior people because everybody is just too busy, inward focused. Meetings, budgets, planning, strategy, results. And these are real things. I'm not brushing it aside. But surely, business partners, strategic partners, technology partners, franchisees, staff, customers must at least equally have an opportunity to get hold of you, speak to you, engage with you, partner with you, which is really where the business takes place.
Very interesting. I've actually noticed many of these changes. Just a subtle change, for example, if you're driving on the N1, before it becomes the M1 at the Baklu interchange, where your head office is on your left-hand side, I noticed the subtle changes to the logos and
Yes.
your signage that you had, the color of the building, all those things. They looked tired and they looked like an organization that wasn't what it should be, as you mentioned earlier. Now it looks polished, it's changed, it looks fresh. So you can feel that energy even when you drive past, even when you talk to. I know one of your franchisees, Tollies. Do you know Tollies?
I know Tolly very well, the Verge
you
shopping center in Linksville there.
Exactly,
Yes.
exactly. You did I saw you were at the opening there. I actually saw it on social media. Even those people that have been at Cell C for a long time, they're talking about the changes. So when you arrived at Cell C in 2023, and you talk about the massive challenges you faced, the cash flow, the spirit, etc., what was the one single biggest challenge you faced when you took over Cell C, and how have you navigated this? What was your starting point?
Well, clearly we had a number of challenges, and I think you have to approach it in a structured plan. It's a bit like, eating an elephant one bite at a time. And I always call it a sequence of events. You have to do the things that matter first. I'm full of analogies. So for me, the things that matter first is when you jump out of the airplane and you pull the chute must open. That's the first thing that must happen. If the parachute doesn't open, don't worry about the next 2 or 3 steps. They won't be needed. And in business, it's the same. There's that one thing that has to happen first before the next thing. Otherwise, the next thing doesn't matter. And our financial position was dire. If I tell you, I arrived to north of 14 billion debt on our balance sheet. We had a creditor stretch of over 3 billion. We were short of cash, nearly 400 million of cash for the month. It was disastrous. So clearly we had a very, very big financial situation to sort out. But we had a number of other things to sort out. Now, you don't just refinance and restructure. The business actually has to start performing. So we needed to sort out our network. We needed to sort out distribution. We needed to sort out our brand. So there were a whole bunch of initiatives that we needed to sort out, but we had to sequence them, prioritize them, and get all the right people on board. So we've made changes to our board, our exco, our executive leadership team, shareholders, and staff at large, and all of our partnership agreements have been reviewed. Now, that has been a systematic approach. I'm approaching 3 years now in July that I've been here. And if I had to take a scorecard and say, given where we were versus where we are now, am I somewhat satisfied with what we've achieved? The immediate short answer is yes, but we are now only at the foundational level of what we're building. We've now got a solid structure, solid foundation. We are yet to genuinely get going and maximize the potential of what this version of Cell C has to offer. So I'm super excited about how we will disrupt, but in a way that is a true partnership to our partners, to our customers, enterprise, consumer, MVNOs, etc. We think we can add tremendous value to South Africans at large by the propositions that we now will make available and are starting to make available to the market.
Well, listen, well done to you and your team. You've highlighted the challenges, and thank you for being so honest. I said to you at the start of the interview, when getting a job as Cell C CEO is almost like a hospital pass. But clearly that you were up for this challenge, and you've highlighted those challenges. And those are not small challenges. Those are really serious challenges just a cash flow. I think the business was on its knees, but you've really made incredible progress in the last 3 years, and I think you've sorted out the ship from any further damage, and you're now sailing, and it's great. And I think that the future looks great for Cell C. So, looking at the future and the vision that you have now that you've sorted out many of the big problems, where do you see the growth happening? What's your vision for the next 3 years?
Yeah, we've been rebuilding trust. I'm not naive to ignore the fact that Cell C wasn't even considered in a conversation. In fact, I would go so far as to say that maybe a few consumer customers could even be embarrassed to say that they're on Cell C a number of years ago, right? Because we're just hanging in there for cheap prices or whatever the case is. So we've had to rebuild trust everywhere, all stakeholders. Today, the Cell C staff are very, very proud, unstoppable members of the Cell C community. Today, our franchisees, you've mentioned one, are very, very proud. We've rebranded 78 of our 104 stores with a new look and feel, and they are so proud of what this means to them. And again, every single store opening has an Exco member there to cut the ribbon and deliver a speech because it's important to us. So we can do it, and we've made it sexy again to open shops, because I see now the industry is doing it. No one was doing it for a long time. And what happens is when you have very little, you innovate. But it's also about whether you're committed to it. And it's not the talk. The talk is cheap. It's the actions. So if I say I'm customer-centric, I've got to go and do stuff. If I say I'm there for business partners, I've got to go and do stuff. So the rebuilding of trust was key. But the rebuilding of trust comes with execution. I can't tell you, Aki, please try my network, and I'm still doing very badly. Today, we are the joint #1 network in terms of 4G video experience, 4G upload, download speeds, and so on, by a number of independent surveys that are conducted, including some by yourselves, Open Signal, etc., etc. So we're very proud of that, and we've swapped CapEx for OpEx. We've got roaming arrangements in a simplistic format with MTN and Vodacom. They're great partners. So rather than building a 10 billion a year CapEx investment, building a 4th base station next to a 3rd, which doesn't help ESG, it doesn't help the carbon footprint, it doesn't add any more value to the consumer. Let me give billions in revenue to these partners at very good margin. Let me buy the capacity that they have available, or they can invest into the network, and I think we're creating a healthier sector. So even my competitors I see as partners from an infrastructure point of view, whether it's active or passive. And so it's all foundational changes that have had to go into rebuilding the trust. Where we are now is going to start accelerating. I think we're the leading provider of MVNO services. We've got some very, very significant brands that have chosen to partner with Cell C. We treat them responsibly and with respect because they are very strong brands, and we do everything in our power to make sure that we uphold the professionalism of those brands. We've got some very significant enterprise partners, so we haven't even played in that space before. We think there's lots of growth. We think on IoT, machine to machine, we've got lots of opportunities there. We've got quite a unique distribution model across various fronts, but importantly, we are consumer-led and consumer-centric. So what does the next 3 to 5 years look like? Growth, for sure. In what format? Could be customers, could be revenue, could be both, could be in partnerships. The expectation is that there will be growth in a very fiercely competitive market. We will be customer-centric. We will be an unbelievably loved brand. So if Cell C doesn't exist, hole in the ground scenario, will consumers just miss megabytes and minutes, or will they miss something else? And if they miss something else, then we're doing good work. If they just miss megabytes and minutes, then we haven't played our role. So we have to add tremendous other value to society. And I think it's quite common known now, at least in the ICT sector, that if you become a dumb pipe and you just provide a connectivity layer, that is easily replicable. You have to move up the value chain and make a significant difference to consumers' lives. So I think the future is about growing all of those other elements above the foundational layer that's now got a significant amount of trust that it didn't have before.
Fantastic. It's a really optimistic look at the future. Out of interest, how many customers does Cell C have at the moment?
Well, we went to our half-year results in February, the 13th to be example, for Friday the 13th to be more specific, in February. Our half-year was end of November, so I can tell you those numbers because we were listed. So it's just under 8 million prepaid customers, 5.1 million MVNO customers, and 800,000 postpaid customers, and a very small amount of fiber. So if you just add them all up, it's about 13.8 million when you look at that all together. Now, the MVNO customers are effectively the MVNO customers. We just manage it from an HLR perspective, a home location register, because they quote their numbers, they quote the activity, the ARPUs, the ASPU, etc. But that gives you an indication of the volume of customers going through the MVNO platforms, and then the prepaid, and then the consumer postpaid. So again, we're a small player, but it's a sizable business.
Yes. Yeah, and it's a decent business. It's a really nice sized business that, if run properly, it will grow and profits will come in. So, okay, that's great. If you could go back to your days at Teljoy, or even before that, is there anything that you would say to yourself that you would do different to shaping who you are today? Would you have done anything different, or would you have done the same thing over again?
I think largely the same, because it kind of shapes who you are. You have a lot of wisdom today, and you think you can ask yourself, you give advice to your younger self in a fancy way, but bumping your head is part of shaping who you are, which people are in your life, the tough things that didn't go your way, the mistakes you made, because normally you have to make a lot of mistakes to actually shape who you are, because if you play it safe, you won't make mistakes. I've had a number of businesses that have failed. I've had some that have worked. I mean, I've had a restaurant for 18 years. It was very successful. But things work and things don't work. So the guidance I would give to myself and to everyone else is, don't take it too seriously when you're young. Don't try and save money when you're earning a 5 grand salary. It's irrelevant, because your 50 rand or 100 rand a month that you're saving is not going to touch sides. Wealth is created over very short periods of time at some stage in your life. It's not this accumulation. The accumulation is knowledge, wisdom, experience, friendships, network. All of those things is what you build up to be where you are, or I am today. So the advice I'd give is, don't take it too seriously. You don't have to have a perfect plan of what you're going to be, how you're going to study, which job you're going to follow, which career. I would say, do the best and the most at everything you do. So if you're mopping floors, mop that floor like it's never been done before. If someone asks you to make a cup of coffee, make the best damn cup of coffee you've ever made, because that's going to show people your attitude and your approach to life. And you don't think you're being interviewed, but you are. The interview date is just the formality. So it's putting in that effort and passion, but don't take yourself too seriously. Have the fun, enjoy yourself. I don't think we're on the planet for too long, so it's not too important to be overly serious about yourself and the planning and so on.
So as I was preparing for this interview, I was at my favorite, and I think it's the best Portuguese restaurant in my view in Johannesburg. I was at visiting my good friend Manny at 1920 in Rosebank at his new restaurant, which I'm sure you've been to. And I wanted to ask you as well, when you, in your spare time, it sounds like your Portuguese roots, and there's food that runs through your veins as well. When you are relaxing and having fun, what do you do? And what's your favorite Portuguese restaurant in Johannesburg and Pretoria?
Yeah, thank you. I do love food. I like cooking. I entertain a lot at home, especially family time, so over Christmas and those kind of things. It's not uncommon to have 50, 60 people at my house over those periods, and I cook. So it's a lot of effort. I do a wide range of things. I'm not an expert by any means, but everyone is always complimentary, so that goes down well.
But you must have one signature dish, Jorge. One signature dish. What would it be?
No, I make espetada, which is actually a dish from Madeira, which is the meat skewer. I do that quite easily. I do chicken.
That's what I had last night.
I do chicken in various. Did you have espetada? Yes, I do chicken in various formats, whether it's grilled, fried, etc. I do curries. I do fish. So it depends on kind of the mood. I like pasta. So all of these kind of things. I have a nice recipe for potatoes. Batata jamuru is what we call it in Portuguese. It's just a very basic, simple thing, but it goes well with everything. Restaurants, I go to a lot. I entertain a lot. I go to restaurants a lot. One of my favorite things is actually the social environment around the dinner table. So when the wine is flowing, the food is flowing with great friends and family, I'm at my peak in terms of joy and fulfillment. I like exercising, so I'm quite active. I've got a gym at home. I'm active at least 3-4 times a week. I used to race jet skis. I'm a big Valentino Rossi fan, MotoGP. I like sport in general, so I follow the Rugby World Cup. I always try and make a trip to the World Cup and watch the Boks play. I know a lot of the Springboks and rugby legends, especially now as we sponsor the South African Rugby Legends. I'm involved with them a lot, and they're just a great bunch of guys. So that's kind of what I do for fun. But you won't believe me, but Cell C fits into that as well. I have a lot of fun here. I really love what I do. I don't feel like I'm working. Of course, you have stressful days, you have stressful moments, you have tough negotiations. But you know, we've implemented some policies like unlimited leave and work from anywhere. And it creates this environment that doesn't feel like, you know, that Sunday night carte blanche feeling. Oh, you know, tomorrow is work. I don't have that feeling. So I'm very blessed with being able to have the ability to have this environment that perhaps a lot of other people are not fortunate enough to have, I dare say, you know. So people work because they have to provide an income, they have to survive and live. For me, it's something that I really do enjoy.
Jorge Mendes, it's been such a pleasure catching up with you and talking to you again. Thank you very much for your time and sharing those insights into your personal life, your business, and where you're taking Cell C. It sounds like an incredible journey that you're on. Good luck. We'll keep tabs and hope to chat to you soon. Jorge Mendes, the Chief Executive Officer at Cell C. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Aki. Thanks very much.